Okay, so what if everything we think we know about, like, the first person in space is wrong?
Hmm.
Like, what if it wasn't Yuri Gagarin?
Yeah.
What if it was a completely different story and one that ended in tragedy?
Yeah, and for you, someone who likes to just cut through the noise and just get to the heart of the story.
Yeah.
Well, this deep dive is going to take us into a real mystery.
Oh, I like that.
A real mystery that surrounds an actual piece of audio history that
Oh, wow. Okay.
that really makes you think about everything we think we know about the very beginnings of space exploration.
Right, and like we all know the narrative, right? It's
Yeah,
it's the Cold War. It's this, space race between the Soviets and the US. Everyone wants to be first.
right.
And then there he is, Yuri Gagarin,
Yeah.
like the first man to orbit the Earth.
Yep, the champ.
But was he really?
Right.
Was he really the first?
That's the question.
Like, could there be someone before him?
Well, yeah, this is where the story takes a turn. And it becomes really unsettling and mysterious.
Oh,
So just a few months after Gagarin's flight in April 1961,
okay.
two Italian guys,
Okay.
Achille and Giovanni Giudica Cordiglia,
Okay.
they were hobbyists, basically.
Right.
They spent their free time listening for radio signals.
Like ham radio.
Yeah, exactly. Ham radio operators
Yeah.
from all over. They just loved listening in.
Okay.
And these guys claimed they picked up something really strange.
Okay.
It wasn't like the triumphant, sounds of a nation broadcasting a victory or whatever.
Yeah.
It was something much more personal and way more chilling.
Oh, okay.
So instead of hearing a man's voice, they said they heard a woman.
A woman.
A woman, and what she was saying hinted at a real tragedy,
Okay.
a mission that had gone totally wrong.
So in this deep dive, we're going to check out this alleged transmission.
Yeah, let's do it.
And these rumors of a secret Soviet program
Right.
that, maybe happened before Gagarin.
Yeah, before the official story.
Right, and we're going to try to figure out who this woman was.
Right. Whose voice, maybe if it's true, was the first human sound
In space.
to go into space.
Wow.
Wild, right?
Okay, so let's get into this transmission.
So the Judica Cordelia brothers, they said this happened on May 23rd, 1961.
Wow, so that's not long after Gagarin?
No, not long at all. It was less than 2 months
Oh,
after his flight.
okay.
And they said the signal was pretty faint,
Okay.
which makes sense if it's coming from space, right?
Yeah, it's a long way.
It's a long way. And the voice was definitely a woman's voice.
Oh, wow.
And they described it as breathless and, clearly distressed,
Oh, gosh.
fading in and out, which, again,
Yeah, weak signal.
makes sense if it's a weak signal from far away.
Right. Okay, so what did she say?
So this is the part that always gets to me.
Okay.
So they translated what they heard, and these were the words.
Okay.
I feel hot. I feel hot. Something is wrong. The heat is increasing. Do you hear me? You hear me? I can see flames. What is this? I'm losing control. Tell them I am. And then nothing, silence.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
The signal just vanished.
Chills.
Yeah, it's really eerie.
So what do those words tell us?
Well, I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
I see flames. I feel hot. I'm losing control. Like, you can't help but imagine this spacecraft in some kind of terrible trouble.
Yeah, like burning up or something?
Right, exactly. And that last part, like, tell them I am.
Yeah.
It just leaves you with so many questions.
Like, who is she talking to?
Yeah, who is she trying to reach?
And what was she trying to tell them?
Yeah, what was that final message?
Yeah, and who is she?
Right.
Like, was this some secret Soviet mission?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we know the Soviets were under huge pressure during the Cold War.
Right.
To, be first to beat the Americans.
Yeah, to win the space race.
Exactly. So you have to wonder how far they were willing to go
Right.
in secret to get ahead.
So, like, secret missions before Gagarin?
It's possible, right?
So who was this woman?
Well, there's this name that pops up sometimes.
Okay.
Lyudmila Tokov.
Lyudmila Tokov. Okay.
Lyudmila Tokov. Some people say she was a Soviet test pilot
Okay.
and that she was part of this secret space flight
Okay.
that, ended in disaster.
Right.
But a lot of that is speculation.
Okay.
It's not like solid evidence,
Right.
And some people think she didn't even exist.
Oh, like she's a myth.
Yeah, like a story made up after the fact
Yeah.
to explain the voice.
To give it a name.
Right, exactly.
So maybe not Lyudmila Tokov, but like, what if it was another woman?
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know Valentina Tereshkova.
Right. She was the first woman in space.
Officially, yes, in 1963.
But what if the Soviets were trying to get a woman up there even earlier?
I mean, they definitely would have wanted to beat the Americans to it.
Right.
So it wouldn't be surprising if they were, experimenting with female cosmonauts back then.
Even before Tereshkova.
Yeah, it's possible. And,
Yeah.
think about how secretive the Soviets were.
Right, like the Cold War?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't want the world to know about their failures.
So they would have covered it up.
Exactly. Especially if it was a woman and it happened before Tereshkova.
Because that would have been bad for their image.
Right. They wanted to look strong and successful.
Yeah, makes sense.
So a cover-up wouldn't be surprising at all.
So let's say this transmission was real.
Yeah.
Let's say there was a lost cosmonaut.
Yeah.
What happened to her? I mean, her words give us some clues.
Right. I see flames. I feel hot. That sounds like something went wrong during re-entry.
Re-entry. What's that?
So that's when the spacecraft comes back to Earth.
Cool.
And it has to go through the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
And there's a ton of friction,
Friction. Okay.
which creates a huge amount of heat.
Oh, wow.
And if the heat shield fails,
Heat shield. What's that?
it's this protective layer that keeps the spacecraft from burning up.
Okay.
So if that fails,
Hmm.
things can go really bad really fast.
Okay, so maybe her heat shield failed.
Yeah, it's a very real possibility.
And that would explain the flames and the heat.
Exactly. It would have been a terrifying experience.
Oh, absolutely. But there's another even more unsettling theory.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some people think she might have been stranded in orbit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like what if her spacecraft had some kind of failure
Okay.
that made it impossible to come back to Earth?
Right.
So the Soviets, they might have just abandoned her mission.
Oh, God.
So instead of, burning up on re-entry,
Yeah.
she would have been trapped in space.
With no way to get home.
And her oxygen would have run out.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
It's a truly awful thought.
To be all alone up there.
Yeah, just floating in the emptiness of space.
And knowing that there's no hope.
And if that's true, it means she wasn't just a lost cosmonaut.
Yeah.
She might have been the first person to die in space.
That's really heavy.
Yeah, it adds this whole other layer of tragedy to the early days of space exploration.
And the thing is, the Russians, they've never acknowledged any of this.
Right.
Like, decades have gone by.
Mm-hmm.
And they still stick to the official story.
Gagarin was first. Tereshkova was the first woman.
And no lost cosmonauts.
Right, their silence just makes the mystery even bigger.
So, like, what are we supposed to believe?
Right. It's hard to know what to think.
Because if this transmission wasn't real,
Yeah.
then why does it sound so real?
Exactly.
Like, if the Judica Cordelia brothers made this whole thing up,
Okay.
why would they do that?
Right. What was their motive?
And how could they make something sound so scary?
Yeah, like the panic in her voice, the sense of urgency. It's so convincing,
It's hard to imagine faking that.
especially back then.
Yeah, so maybe they really did pick up something real.
It's possible, right?
But we just don't have any proof.
We don't have any confirmation from the Russians.
So we're left with this mystery.
Right. This unsettling possibility that there's more to this story
That there are these hidden chapters in history.
that we may never know the full truth about.
So to wrap things up,
Yeah.
we have this alleged transmission.
Right.
This faint voice of a woman in space.
Filled with fear and a sense of doom.
And it completely contradicts the official story.
The story that celebrates the Soviet successes.
And ignores any potential tragedies.
Right.
So as you think about this story,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to consider this.
Okay.
Could this be a real voice from the past?
Yeah.
A voice that was captured by chance?
By those Italian radio operators?
A voice that tells a story of sacrifice?
A story that's been hidden for all these years.
Maybe this deep dive has shown you
Yeah.
that there's more to history than what's in the textbooks.
Absolutely.
And that there are these untold stories out there.
Waiting to be discovered.
Stories that challenge what we think we know.
And make us question everything.
And that's what makes history so fascinating.
It's not always neat and tidy.
There are always these mysteries
Yeah.
and unanswered questions.
And it's up to us to keep searching for the truth.
And to never stop exploring.
Exactly.
Because who knows what else is out there?